What if your child were expelled just for having black skin? What would you do if the school principal humiliated him in front of everyone and no one said anything? What happened in this classroom outraged an entire country. This is the true story that the system tried to silence. It was 7:05 a.m. when Darnell, an 11-year-old boy, came running to John Foster Kennedy District School. He was wearing his clean uniform, his notebooks and a torn backpack his mother had sewn the night before, and a wide smile. The kind children still allow themselves without fear. He was happy because that morning he had a presentation about Martin Luther King and had practiced all week in front of the mirror. At the entrance, Principal Collins stopped him, a white man over 60 with a dry gaze and an authoritarian voice. He looked at the backpack, then scanned him from head to toe and said, "You again late. Didn't they teach you at home to respect time?" Darnell looked at his watch. He was 5 minutes late. "I'm sorry, Mr. Collins. The bus was delayed, and I don't care about your excuses. Go to the office. You're suspended for a week. And change that backpack. You look like a beggar." Silence fell instantly. Several students entering stood still. A teacher tried to intervene, but Collins shot her a look that shut her mouth immediately. Darnell lowered his gaze, eyes glistening, gripping the strap of his backpack tightly. He didn't cry, not in front of everyone. At 10 a.m., already at home, his mother listened in silence as he told her what had happened, in a choked voice. She didn't say anything at first. She walked to a drawer, pulled out a folder where she had kept 2 other reports Darnell had brought home before, all for inappropriate behavior, all signed by Collins. What never added up was that none had witnesses or other evidence. Only the principal's account. That night, the mother's phone vibrated. It was a voice message sent by another parent, secretly recorded by his daughter. You could hear Principal Collins' voice saying, "I don't understand why these kids get so much support. They come in with those ridiculous braids and think they're important. Here, either they adapt or they leave." Darnell's mother uploaded the message to Facebook without writing anything. She just posted, "This is the principal of John Foster Kennedy School. Listen." The next day, the video had been shared over 11,000 times. But that didn't stop Principal Collins. What happened at the Wednesday meeting would change everything. Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. The parent meeting had just begun, but the atmosphere was already tense. Principal Collins, in his gray suit and hypocritical smile, sat at the front as if nothing was happening. He didn't mention the leaked audio. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain anything. We know social media can misinterpret things. He began in a condescending tone. But this institution is governed by rules. And if a student doesn't comply, they will be sanctioned regardless of their background. A mother raised her hand. It was Mrs. Lucia Gomez, Kevin's mother, a classmate of Darnell. "Background, Mr. Collins? Does that include race? Why did you expel Darnell for being 5 minutes late, but you don't say anything to white kids?" Collins laughed as if it were a joke. "Please, Mrs. Gomez, not everything is racism. Sometimes kids like him," and he looked directly at Darnell's mother, "just aren't prepared for a structured environment. Discipline isn't taught in every household, you know what I mean." An uncomfortable murmur spread through the room. Darnell's mother stood up. "And what households are you referring to, Principal?" "Don't get upset," he replied, as if she were overreacting. "I'm talking about difficult contexts where the father isn't present, where there are social issues. The problem is you people want everything to be blamed on racism. You people? Single mothers, those from your community. You know." At that point, there were no more murmurs. 2 more parents stood up, one of them white, outraged. "You have no right to talk like that. This isn't 1950. This is a public school." With all due respect, Collins insisted, raising his voice, "This school has standards. We can't allow the academic order to be derailed because of problematic kids from conflicted cultures." And then, as if it had been planned, a white 6th-grade girl named Emily came running in with her phone in hand and placed it on the table. "That man yelled at my friend Darnell that he looked like a slave with that braid on his head. I heard it." Silence fell. Collins turned red. "That's an absurd defamation. Where did you get that?" Emily pulled out another phone. "My sister recorded it. Here it is." Collins tried to stand up, but it was too late. One of the parents connected the phone to the room speaker and played the audio for everyone. The voice was unmistakable. "I can't stand seeing those brats with braids. They look like slaves. They should be grateful to be here. If they don't like it, they can go to a ghetto school." No one said anything at first. The silence was heavy, a silence of shock, of contained anger. But it was also a silence that marked a turning point. Darnell's mother approached the principal's desk, this time with no fear in her eyes. With a firm voice, she said, "You're not going to expel my son. You're going to be expelled from this school." A couple of parents stood up. Then more followed. One mother took pictures of Collins's unhinged face. Another parent, a lawyer, was already on the phone with a journalist. 2 hours later, the school district had received more than 30 calls and 14 formal emails demanding the immediate dismissal of Principal Collins. That afternoon, his name was already trending nationwide under the hashtag Justice for Darnell. At 6 p.m., an official statement was posted on the district's website. Principal Collins has been removed from his position while a disciplinary investigation is conducted regarding acts of racial discrimination within the institution. The district's priority is to ensure a safe and respectful environment for all students. But the real ending came the following Monday. Darnell returned to school. This time, not with his mended backpack, but with a new one donated by Emily's mother. At the entrance, several students, parents, and even some teachers were waiting for him. It wasn't a march, it wasn't a protest, it was a welcome. They held signs with messages like, "We are all Darnell," "Education has no color," and "Respect starts at home," and at school. Some journalists were outside with their cameras, but the applause came from within. When Darnell walked into his classroom, everyone stood up. Some classmates smiled at him. Emily, the girl who had dared to speak up, handed him a new notebook and whispered in his ear, "You're braver than all of us put together." The teacher, holding back tears, gave him a strong hug. "Welcome back, Darnell. Today it's your turn to give your presentation," she said with a sincere smile. He took a deep breath, stood in front of the class, pulled out his carefully folded paper, and began. Martin Luther King dreamed of a world where children wouldn't be judged by the color of their skin. Today, I understand more than ever what that means. Every word Darnell spoke echoed what he had just lived. He was no longer just telling someone else's story. He was speaking from his own dignity, from his own experience. And as he spoke, the students listened intently, some with anger, others with pride, and many with tears. That week, the school district announced the creation of a new Equality and Inclusion Committee, led by parents, teachers, and students, to review all conduct protocols, with an emphasis on inclusion and anti-discrimination. For the first time, Black and Latino students felt that their voices mattered, that their existence wasn't just tolerated, but defended. Principal Collins was permanently removed from his position 2 weeks later. He never offered a public apology, but that no longer mattered, because the fear had changed sides. Silence was no longer an accomplice, and kids like Darnell were no longer alone. His story didn't end there. He was invited to give a short speech at City Hall and even appeared on the cover of a local magazine under the headline, "The Boy Who Taught His School Not to Give in to Hate." His mother hugged him tightly that day, and through tears, she said, "I will never let anyone make you feel like less, son, because you were born to be so much more." And deep down, everyone who heard her knew it was true.